2 sets of 15 reps on both sides.
15?
That's a lot, yeah. I can see, you want to do like 12?
I want to do 6.
6.
Today, I have the privilege of having Connor Harris, the biomechanics expert, to show us 3 key warm-up drills for MMA fighters. Let's get into it. Let them know who you are real quick and what you specialize in.
I specialize in biomechanics, getting people to get their joints in better positions, therefore their muscles can work better, getting their posture in better alignment so their joints can be unlocked, and dealing with asymmetries on each side of the body.
You know I have a lot of combat sport athletes, MMA, boxing, bare knuckle too as well. What do you see is the most important thing to do with a warm-up?
To get better alignment of the joints and to be able to get people into more of a neutral position. I like to think about it as a position where joints are stacked and aligned. And if that's the case, then you have all this freedom of movement. You have a lot of movement options available to you. So my goal is to pick exercises specific to combat athletes, and what can we do to get them in a position where they're going to be able to express the most freedom of movement and movement options. Starting on the ground, a little crossover activity, because when you think of fighting, what is really important? What are the joint actions happening there? As human beings, we're going to be doing alternating and reciprocating motions, meaning that we're usually going to be doing things where one leg is back and the other arm is reaching forward, or vice versa. So what we want to do is start to train and pattern those things and get the joints in the positions that allow us to do that effectively. So we're going to start 90-degree bend at both the knees and the hips, and we have a little light band, not super heavy, just really light, around our back, our mid-back, looped through our thumbs there. So what I'm going to have Phil do is focus on keeping his whole foot flat, but mostly his heels on that wall. He's just going to gently drag down, and that's going to tuck his pelvis just a little bit. So that feeling of keeping your low back flat, but your tailbone lifts off of the ground. That's going to engage your hamstrings on both sides. Okay, now this is where that alternation and crossover happens. He's going to take one foot off of the wall, doesn't matter which, we'll start with both, and he's going to reach with the left hand towards his right toes, keeping his head relaxed. And that's going to allow him to feel more hamstring on this left side. He's going to feel a little serratus on that left side as well, and some abs on the left. So what this is really patterning is to get that alternating action while he's grounded on this side, which would be getting that hip back and being able to then lead with that arm and being able to do that in a genuine way, which is going to unlock movement at both our hips and our shoulders. So he's just going to breathe in through this, in through his nose, out through his mouth, nice and relaxed for about 5 breath cycles. The goal of this isn't necessarily to feel as much tension in your body as you can. It's to isolate these abs, hamstring, and serratus to allow them to be integrated together effectively. After about 5 slow breaths, Phil is just going to switch, and then we're going to do the opposite side. I would recommend doing about 2 sets on each side for the maximal benefit. This is the cable-assisted drop lunge. The reason why this is such a great warm-up activity is because not only is it going to allow us to really get into our hips, but it's also going to help you feel your glutes and adductors. And that is extremely important for producing internal rotation. Internal rotation is the action of our joints that allows us to put force through the ground. And that will allow us to stay more stable and produce more force. So this is really helpful for that. 2 weight plates right here. This is enough to get him a good amount of elevation off of the ground. He's going to focus on staying stable through his foot right here. The whole foot's going to be flat, but in particular, we want to feel the first metatarsal head right here, not the big toe itself, but where that ball of the foot is right there, and then the inner heel. That's going to allow him to load into the hip effectively. That cable is also going to do that. Slowly reach that leg back as that knee goes over that big toe right there. And he's just going to load into that and then push out of it slowly and controlled as he gets to the top of the rep. And as he goes down, he's going to be loading into that internal rotation. He should feel a little inner thigh adductor and some glute. And then as he pushes through that, he's going to feel more glute. It's really important here that he keeps a little bit of knee bend throughout the entire action until he gets to that hip extended position, because at that point, he's really using his glute. But right here, that's going to allow him to access the most amount of internal rotation on that hip.
The great thing about this particular exercise, when you're talking about rotation, when you're talking about strikes, when you're talking about overhands and throwing kicks, you need the glute med, you need the adductor to turn on. If you've seen any of my videos, you know that I'm a huge proponent of that, working through reciprocation, working through rotation. This is a great way to stimulate those muscles that are going to correlate over into the fight game.
For this, I'd recommend about 2 sets of 10 reps per side. This is the front foot elevated cable press. I think that this one is clearly and visually the most specific to actually punching and staying stable on that back leg and getting genuine rotation. A lot of people, a lot of fighters are really good at turning, but a lot of that is happening through their low backs. And that's not inherently a bad thing, but over time that can lead to some unwanted and undesired wear and tear on some joints we don't necessarily want it to. So what this does is facilitates more genuine rotation and mechanics of that through our shoulder blade and rib cage. And that is a huge component of staying healthy long term. Again, those two weight plates are the good elevation here. And we're gonna get our whole foot flat of the side that we're not pressing with. So we're gonna be pressing with the right arm here, so the right leg will be back, left foot is up on that. So you wanna be in a comfortable position, so you might need to adjust how wide your feet are relative to each other, but you should be able to keep that whole foot flat and feel right here the whole foot flat, but again, those inner foot contacts on both sides. And we're gonna have the cable weight inside our base of support, so it's hooked on the inside of our arm. This is better for genuine turning of our trunk. What we're gonna do is reach both arms, and as we finish the rep with this press, we're gonna go a little bit further. So now Phil's gonna bring it back just to in line with his torso, and he's gonna press as he exhales, and he's gonna reach a little further. This will facilitate a turn of his hips and his thorax, his trunk, to that left side, and restoring more genuine motion as he does that. So I'd recommend he does this for about 2 sets of 15 reps on both sides.
Intent is everything.
Yeah.
Right? You feel it immediately.
You do.
As soon as you do the first rep, you feel it.
Yeah.
Is there any downside to doing too much volume on the warm-up?
Yeah, I think so. If we're thinking about the idea of intent, you will lose that. Like you lose that natural focus after, that's why I wouldn't program more than like 15 reps, because you're going to lose that focus and you're going to lose the specificity, and you're going to start to get a little bit lazy, and usually what happens is now you're going to start rotating through your low back and things are going to start to go awry a little bit.
True.
So that is the biggest concern I have. Other than that, I think it just leads to overall a little bit more compensatory motion. I think like 15 or less is probably ideal.
Like it. Now with this step up here, the reason why we're elevated is because we are giving the ability to really pull back the hip, and it elevates the hip, so it allows you to do that. Because a lot of guys will try to push forward a little bit more. Is that what you see?
Think about what happens if you put your foot up here. You automatically unweight this leg, and more weight would go onto this leg naturally as a byproduct of this. So what you're doing is you're making it easier to facilitate a turn into this leg, and that's going to make it more of a genuine movement relative to, and you could still do it in this position right here, but it's going to be harder for you not to move through your low back or over rotate. So this is going to lock you into a better position, and you don't really have to think about anything. It'll just naturally happen.
All right, guys, so there you have it. 3 key warm-up exercises to turn on those muscles to help you recruit them inside of the cage. Connor, thank you so much, man. Where can they find you on Instagram and everything else that you got going on?
You can find me on Instagram at Connor, CONOR_Harris_. Also my website, ConnorHarris.com. Got a lot of content on my YouTube and IG if you want a deeper dive.
See you guys next time. Peace.